Welcome to Washington Watch with Congressman Walter Jones. Each month, we take a look at the events happening in Washington, D.C. and how they affect our lives here in Eastern North Carolina. And now, here's your Congressman, Walter Jones.
Welcome to the February edition of Washington Watch. Today's guest is Congressman Ike Skelton from Missouri's 4th District. Congressman Skelton serves as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. His district includes Fort Leonard Wood, Whiteman Air Force Base, and the Missouri National Guard Training Center. Congressman Skelton is a native of Lexington, Missouri, and is a graduate of Wentworth Military Academy and the University of Missouri at Columbia. Prior to his election to the United States House of Representatives in 1977, Congressman Skelton served as a county prosecutor and also in the Missouri State Senate. I am honored and pleased to have a gentleman that I have so much respect for, who is chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Ike Skelton. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Walter, thank you very much. It's good to be with you and share a few moments. You know, I have some North Carolina roots. Maybe I haven't told you this before, but my mother was a Boone, and the Daniel Boone family at one time lived in your state, as you know.
I did not know
and
that.
I have a son and daughter-in-law and a grandson living in North Carolina, too, so this is very special for you to have me on your program.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the 3rd District for sharing that information about the North Carolina relationships. That's very special for a multitude of reasons. And Mr. Chairman, I want the people who are watching this show, I have been on the Armed Services Committee for 15 years. It's a privilege and an honor to serve and to serve with you as well. And many times people are wondering that we're not the Appropriations Committee that funds the programs, but we're the authorizing committee. Would you explain from your point of view as the leader of the committee what you see our main function is?
Well, Walter, as you mentioned, the Armed Services Committee, which includes the old committee that just dealt with the Army and land forces and the Navy issues committee, that was all put together a good number of years ago. It authorizes, and which means that states, we will buy so many ships, we will buy so many trucks, we will give a pay raise, etc. And the Appropriations Committee comes in later and fills in the blanks that we established in our authorization. In addition thereto, our committee deals with policy matters, and you know full well the history of the Goldwater-Nichols bill. I was personally involved with that over a period actually of 4 years. It's a rather long and involved history, but it finally came to pass. And if you're wearing the uniform of the United States military, you know full well what the Goldwater-Nichols bill did. It created jointness, causing the various services to work together far more closely than being stovepiped as they were. That's a policy thing, and we deal with policies from time to time, in addition to stating how many aircraft carriers we will have, how many trucks we will have, how many Humvees we will have, and the like.
Mr. Chairman, you know I have Camp Lejeune Marine Base in my district, and Cherry Point Marine Air Station, and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. And like you, with bases in your district, I hear from the families on a regular basis and their concerns about the frequent deployments. I mean, they're willing to give their life for this country. That hasn't changed, but you know, there are family situations where families are stressed and very concerned. I know you've taken the lead on trying to increase the numbers. Can you speak to that, plus the deployment issue?
Well, yes, it's true. The young men, young women are under stress because of the frequent deployments. It's nothing to run into a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who's been deployed 2 times to either Afghanistan or to Iraq, or in the National Guard, in the Missouri National Guard in particular, to Kosovo. Some have been deployed 4 and even 5 times. And number one, you have to take your hat off to the young folks, because they're professionals. They understand the word duty, and they're very, very good at what they do. They are the finest military in the world, no question about that. But their families feel the stress. If a breadwinner is gone, and sometimes it's not just the soldier, it's a young female soldier is gone, leaving a child or two or so back home. The families are really those that are under stress the most. And we have seen, sadly, soldiers coming home, and there being disagreements in the family stress, and very sadly, some of the marriages have broken up, and which I hate, and I know you do too.
Right.
This raises the question about Haiti. We have a total of about 13,000 uniformed people in Haiti. About 3,000 of them, probably more today, on the ground there, doling out relief and helping keep security in that very, very sad country. I don't think that will have much effect up to about 90 days. But past that, you might find additional stress. Let's hope that most of them can get the job done. I'm sure at one point they're going to call in Missouri and other National Guardsmen to do some work and some help down there. Thus far, we haven't received much of that yet. But there is stress, and you and I both know that. That's why we've increased the size of the military in the bill this last year that you supported so well. We increased the size of the military overall by 55,000. Since 2006, we've increased the size of the military 80,000. So we're working on that to ease the number of deployments, and hopefully at the end of the day that's going to have a positive effect.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for mentioning that about the increases, because in that total, it certainly helped the Marine Corps as well as the Army, those numbers, and we're seeing a tremendous expansion down at Camp Lejeune down in the district. I want to thank you for your comments about Haiti. Recently, I received a letter from a psychiatrist down in my district who had been treating a lady who had been married, still married, to a Marine for 2.5 years, but she's only spent 3 months with him. And you, in the leadership role you've taken, along with other members of Congress, we fully do understand the stress, and trying to give them all the mental health assistance we can to deal with these very difficult times.
Some 25 years ago, 35 years ago, most of the folks in the military were not married. But that, of course, has changed through the years. We have so many more that are married, have families, and they're doing quite well. However, the deployments are taking a toll, and that's the reason that you and I have done our best to increase the size of the military to take the strain somewhat off of the deployment problem.
Mr. Chairman, our military has been in Afghanistan for 10 years, going on 10 years now, and I, feel that under the new leadership, I wish you'd speak briefly to General McChrystal. You've held hearings. I've been at most of those hearings. And the question, I think you've asked this question, so I want to ask you. Do you feel that we have a sufficient understanding of the benchmarks of what we're trying to achieve in Afghanistan?
I think we do. Sadly, after a period of time, right after 9/11, we did the right thing. We went in there, and we were actually doing quite well. And then we went into Iraq, and I think the previous administration took the eye off the ball and treaded water in Afghanistan, and consequently the al-Qaeda terrorists were able to build up. And I think we have it right now. The young people there are just superb. We've increased the size and are increasing the size of our military commitment. But let me say something about the leadership that we have. Back during World War II, President Roosevelt and later President Truman I had Dwight Eisenhower, I had Omar Bradley, and of course George Marshall as the Army Chief of Staff. Couldn't have better leadership for that time in our history. Today we have Admiral Mike Mullen. We have General Dave Petraeus, who is in charge of all of the Middle East, and General Stan McChrystal, who is the overall commander in Afghanistan. And you cannot field a better team of leadership, military leadership. And I think they will prove that they understand, they are up to the challenge, and they're as good as they come. So let's us continue to give them our support. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. But at the end of the day, I think that their leadership will pay off.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for mentioning the past as well as the present and the future. I think that's important for the people that might be watching this show to hear from your analogy and opinions. Because
as you know, I have stressed with the military that your military leaders need to understand history. And I'm not just talking about the admirals and the generals. I'm talking about your sergeants first class. I'm talking about your lieutenants and your captains, because history doesn't repeat itself. But as Missourian Mark Twain once says, it sure rhymes a lot. and an awful lot can be learned from studying the past. You see, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a dentist, you practice your profession almost every day. Soldiers, fortunately, don't have to practice their profession every day. And some will go an entire career without having to practice their profession. That's why they should study history, understand tactics, operational art, and strategy. And we have our war colleges, and they're very, very good. They've gotten better through the years, and our committee has helped them get better through the years.
That's an excellent point to share with the viewers. Mr. Chairman, recently you held a hearing on China.
Yes. And
I was able to attend most of the hearing. I know that there are many people that are concerned that the Chinese are spending a large amount of their GDP on the military investments, and I wish you could give kind of a summary of where you think the Chinese are and where we are and where we need to be.
Well, it's very interesting. I guess it was 2005, Walter, I led a small delegation with Randy Forbes to China, and of course they're very polite people.
Sure.
And it was really a great deal of I want to call it haranguing, for lack of a better word, on Taiwan, but of course they were very polite to us. Went back a couple of years ago, and their attitude seems to have changed a great deal, more open. They invited us to the 2nd Artillery Group, which is the artillery center that owns and operates all their nuclear weapons as well as their missiles. And they were very open to us on that occasion. In some respects, I think that they are beginning to be more open to us. However, they are having a military buildup. Some of it is made public, some of it is not. We know that from that country, and we can't say it's coming from their government, but from that country, there's a great deal of internet, for lack of a better word, hacking into American systems, and that, of course, does not bode well. We are beginning to see a thawing between their military and our military, and the military to military, and this is always helpful because you can learn just by breakfast conversations with their military. It's a mixed bag. I think it's something we should be concerned about, keep our eye on it, but I think if we keep the military to military exchanges going, I think that will help tremendously. But they do have an eye for the future, and just what their goal is, I'm not sure I can say, or very many people can say.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I think there are those in the military and outside the military that would share with you that statement of we need to be careful and we need to watch what the future might hold.
No question about it. No question about it. We need to. They are trying to build up their military, and in many respects, their Navy, their missiles, the size of their Army is great, and consequently, we should keep our eye on it. However, in the meantime, there is a great deal of commerce going between the two countries. It would help for them to open up their commerce and their purchasing from America more. But I think that may well come to pass. We just have to keep pushing on it.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you. We've only got a couple minutes left. You have helped me so much in the effort to rename the Department of Navy to be Navy and Marine Corps. And you know I have a lot of Marines in my district. And I very kindly, you have said to me, if you can get 350 co-sponsors, you'll try to bring the bill up in the spring to give us a vote on the floor. And on behalf of the Marine Corps, and on February the 11th, you were invited, but you've got a hearing. You can't be with us, but the Gunny Sergeant Lee Ermey is going to be here in the Cannon building, and that's going to be the kickoff. And I just want to thank you for the leadership you've provided in so many areas, but also in this small area, symbolic but important to the Marine Corps.
Well, it is very important. As you know, I included it in the Chairman's Mark this last year, and I compliment you for your persistence. I think it's a good goal. And the Senate, of course, did not agree with us, but we will continue.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for that. But I want to thank you. We got a minute left. I want to thank you for the leadership that you have provided this country. The military knows where you are, just like the chairman before you, Duncan Hunter, did all he could to help the military. You've done all you can, and you are the chairman. And I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. The military will never second guess where Ike Skelton stands when it comes to the military.
Thank you very much. It's a labor of love. And it's not just the fact that I have Whiteman Air Force Base and the Missouri National Guard headquarters or Fort Leonard Wood in the district. So many people historically from Missouri have made a military contribution through the years. Harry Truman, as you know, during the First World War, was a battery commander in Battery D. And as a matter of fact, I was very instrumental in causing the Navy to name an aircraft carrier after Harry Truman.
Interesting.
And to the Navy's credit, their battle flag is a red flag that has cross cannons on it, just like the artillery, and 129D. And he was a battery commander of Battery D in the 129th Field Artillery, 35th Division. And so I handed it to the Navy for portraying Harry Truman accurately. It's a big plus.
I love to hear the history. Harry Truman was a very interesting leader of this country. Again, I want to thank the Chairman, Ike Skelton, for being with us today. Thank him for his leadership to this nation and for this nation. And in about 1 minute, Glenn Downs, who's my Chief of Staff, we'll talk about some local issues that we're hearing from the people. As Glenn says, Mr. Chairman, we go into our mailbag and we see what the people are interested in now. So thank you, and in just about 1 minute, Glenn Downs will be with us. Welcome to the second part of the February edition of Washington Watch, and I'm delighted to have Glenn Downs with me again. We want you to know back home that we do hear from you, from email to mail to telephone calls and faxes. So, Glenn, here we are again.
Yes, sir, Congressman. Thank you very much for having me back. And absolutely, you do, and we at the staff level hear a lot from the people of Eastern North Carolina, and that's the way we want it. So, but they've got lots of, and they're not shy about asking questions and just voicing their opinions, which is not a bad thing either. And one of the things that's on people's minds, and as we're taping here today, is what next with health care. When we last got together, the so-called Obamacare looked like it was headed towards being passed, and then there was an election in Massachusetts, and everything seemed to change. And what do you see briefly next on the horizon there?
Glenn, I'm seeing from our side, the Republican side has always said to the leadership, let's slow the train down. We know we have issues dealing with health care that we need to address to help the American people, but let's do it one issue at a time. Glenn, that's what I think the president might be saying on Wednesday night, is that the time to come together, both Republican and Democrat, and to sit down at the table and figure out what is the most difficult problem facing the American people as it relates to health care, and deal with it one item by one item, and I think we can do good for the people.
Well, let's hope that that's the case. Another issue that's on people's minds and is going to have to be dealt with is the issue that you keep talking about, is the debt of the country. And not only there's people's personal debt and there's the federal government's debt, and we are very rapidly once again approaching a debt ceiling where the federal debt ceiling will have to be increased if the federal government's going to continue to spend money at the rate that it's spending it. What's going on with that? What's the prognosis for that being passed?
Well, Glenn, I think it would be interesting. Both parties are guilty of raising the debt ceiling. They did when we were the majority, and now the Democrats are doing it. And to me, when a country is spending so much money overseas that it doesn't have, then when you raise the debt ceiling, what it does, it enables the government to borrow more money. And I think it's time to say, no, let's stop it where it is. Let's figure out where we're going, what we can do about the problems facing this country, and deal with the problems.
As we're taping here today again, President Obama has just announced that he was going to announce a partial freeze on some federal spending, some small segments of federal spending. Is that a good first step, and what's being left out, and what's the story?
Glenn, I want to give the benefit of the doubt till we can actually read and see the proposal. But my feeling is that you need to do across the board type freezing to figure out where we are. Now, I realize the military, when you're fighting wars, you can't do that. That I understand. But the debt of this nation, the true debt, is about $54 trillion. It's not 11 or 12. It is if you don't factor in the obligations that you know you're going to have to pay. But when you factor in those obligations, then the true debt's $54 trillion. That means every American, including a baby that's born today, when that baby's born and it gives its first cry, I've been saying that first cry is because the baby owes $184,000. That's why it's crying.
I'm a lot older than a baby. It makes me cry too. But
me too.
One of the things that people really call and complain about, is sort of a persistent complaint from Eastern North Carolina, is why are we spending so much money overseas? And I guess maybe people see situations like Haiti and say we need to help out some, but so much overseas, and Mr. Obama's spending freeze proposal doesn't go into effect until October, and one of the things he specifically is talking about not freezing is foreign aid.
Well, Glenn, I still come back to a very simple type position. If you've got to borrow money from foreign governments to pay your bills, and you got to borrow money from foreign governments to send foreign aid, then why don't you stop it? So to that point that you just mentioned, I hope to write the president. I don't think he'll read it and follow it, but ask him, why don't you just put a cap on foreign aid and stop spending this money overseas when you can't even fix the streets in Eastern North Carolina, and yet you're worried about the streets in Afghanistan? I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
Glenn, I'm sorry. Time is, as always, it goes so quickly. This has been a great show with Chairman Skelton and with you being on the show as well. I want to thank those of you who are watching this show, and hope you will continue to pray for America. We need your prayers to do what's right for our children and grandchildren's future. And God bless our men and women in uniform, and may God bless America. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for taking the time to join us for Washington Watch.